destruction. What's poppin', people? It's Dante. Check it out. Dead trees. I guess when it's winter time, you know, and the climate becomes a bit chaotic, lots of rain randomly, some days really windy, others, and then just yesterday it was extremely sunny and beautiful, and you know, I was outside with less you know, coat, you know, I didn't have to put on a big coat. You know, change is interesting. You know, I feel like every single day is different, every single fleeting moment is different, and every moment we're evolving and changing. And I think it's important to recognize this flux of life. And for me, when I think about the change of seasons and the way in which the trees fall and regrow and operate on a biological level, I think about how we can apply this as a metaphor for humanity and the physical body of a person, you know, where I believe that we can evolve on the genetic level through our cellular DNA and the makeup of our bodies. You know, when you consider the body as a battery and the sun like a charger, ultimately, this is for me what fuels me with energy and vitality. It's the sunlight, it's the exposure to the UV radiation and the vitamin D that synthesizes within my cells. It's eating fatty red meat that have cholesterol and protein and all of the good nutrients that my body needs. It's drinking clean water and the privilege of having water from a tap here in the city, and turning on the faucet each morning and drinking a nice cup of water that fuels me with this energy, and these nutrients flow through me, through my bloodstream. And, you know, when I look up at the trees, it reminds me that we too undergo a certain sort of photosynthesis in a way, where the plants almost echo the way in which we operate as humans on the biological level. You know, I've been spending a lot of time here working in horticulture, spending time in nature and contemplation, alone, looking at all of the intricate details and patterns in nature. And when I inhale this fresh air, you know, I can see my air, right? I can see the oxygen. I can see it. You can see my breath, or the CO2, right? It's kind of interesting. It's like I'm inhaling that fresh air from the tree, you know, it's going deep into my lungs, you know, fueling my body. And then the oxygen, or the carbon dioxide rather, that I exhale goes back into the tree. And it's this everlasting cycle, you know, where these branches that are looming and growing tall, you know, are competing for the sunlight. You know, every tree is ultimately trying to expose itself to sun as it grows, for that is the charger, that is what fuels it. And the branches themselves and the pattern and detail of a branch looks very similar to that of our lungs and the way in which our lungs are made. And, you know, when I pick up a leaf and look at the detail and the pattern of the leaf and see these beautiful veins that form through the stem, it reminds me of my veins that are on in my body, and the similar way in which the leaf absorbs nutrients and carries the water throughout its structure, similar to that of a physical body through the arteries and the veins of our bodies, right? And I don't know, I mean, today I'm thinking about that because I think similar to that of a plant, similar to that of a tree, we undergo these cycles of change, of death, of growth and rebirth again. One of my favorite things to do when I'm in the horticulture center is actually pick out a plant that's growing a bit too wild, and then propagating it and putting it in a new location and allowing it to be born again. And there's something special about watching the seasons change. It's something beautiful, almost magical, if you will. It's very much similar to me of a miracle, this whole like universe and the way that things operate. It's very special, you know, as much as you can look at it on a scientific front. You know, I think maybe there are some spiritual components to nature that fascinates me. You know, where I believe it's best for us to align with nature. And I don't necessarily mean this to be on a physical level of literally being around trees and, you know, being in a park, but on the internal front where, you know, perhaps through purification, we can become perfect. You know, we are imperfect creatures. You know, we are mortal flesh creatures, You know, we're bound by gravity, we cut, we bleed, we pout, we shout, we feel sorrow, anger, and grief. You know, we die similar to that of these trees. But ultimately, through purification, we can embrace perfection. You know, I find that perfection is something worth striving for. You know, for me, to stay lowly, you know, to embrace modernity, the distractions through media, celebrity gossip, social media, news, drama, you know, these things become very distracting. It's something that's bombarded through advertisements telling us how we should live our lives and what we should consume, what we should do and what we shouldn't do, where we should go, how we should think, what we should wear. You know, these distractions on this earth, in this modern society, this system in place, I believe stray us further from this ideal man who strives for perfection. I think that's something lacking in life, because if you look at the media, if you embrace technology a little bit too much, where you become out of balance, I think that this is where ultimately you will see the degradation of culture and the embrace of mediocrity. Ultimately, I find that the more you consume, the less you become, but the more you subtract and purify, the more you become. You know, it's interesting. I feel like this life of ours is a stream of becoming, of constant evolution and change and growth and flux. And I think to be complacent with mediocrity, to be complacent with modern society because of some sort of social norm or code or way in which you're supposed to live, I think is worth questioning. It's worth wondering, you know, why. But yeah, maybe we all put on a mask when we go out into society and ultimately stray away from truth. We divide ourselves through identity, through race, sex, political ideology, and it becomes a bit crazy. You know, it becomes a bit crazy. You know, you can't be friends with me because you think a certain way. We can't be together, and we can't be in the same group or at a community meeting because you voted for Trump, or you support Kamala Harris, or certain sort of groupthink mentality that I think plagues society through these systems, through this media, through the distractions and all the smoke screens that are sort of taking us away from how we all are one. You know, I think we divide ourselves more than come together, which is a strange realization that I've had after all of these years of traveling the world and experiencing new cultures in different places. We still bicker over the most banal, unimportant, small, trivial things in life, when we're literally on a giant rock floating in a void of space, orbiting around a ball of fire. Like, there's so much more to this world than the pettiness of trivialities and gossip. You know, for me, what I realized when I was in Africa, specifically when I was standing on top of the Simeon Mountains in Ethiopia, surrounded by monkeys, looking out at one of the most grand, beautiful views I've ever seen in my entire life, is the simple fact that we all stem from Africa, right? We all stem from this birthplace of humanity, from the same gene pool, from the same body of water. And here we are, you know, scattered throughout the world, adopting new cultures, religions, ideologies, eating different foods, consuming different things. And, you know, the point is, we all come from the same place. You know, to divide yourself based on the color of your skin, whether black or white, or, you know, a religious belief, whether you're Christian or Jewish or Muslim, it's so foolish and distracting. And the more that you divide yourself based on these ideologies, the further away you go. You know, it's not good to divide. You know, maybe what I think about specifically is one of these experiences that I had when I was studying at Hebrew University. A professor would constantly praise me for my work, always telling me how great my photographs were. And I would travel throughout all of the West Bank making pictures of the Palestinian cities and different cultural things like weddings and, just mundane everyday life kind of thing in certain locations. But he had the audacity in the classroom, this professor, to tell me that I should strap a bomb to one of the kids, right? A fake bomb, and take a picture of one of the Palestinian kids in their bedroom surrounded by their parents with the hijab on, and have them, pose for the photo and take this photo, to portray the people in a particular way. Because his perception of reality revolves around the division in his everyday life within the Israeli society, where there's terrorism and fear and division ultimately. And there's a physical barrier there. There's a wall, and that wall symbolizes division, right? And when I think about this experience and things that he would say, Allah Akbar, baby, he would mock them in their religious beliefs. I had to sort of just hold my tongue and not respond, frankly. And I didn't say anything to him. I didn't bat an eye. I just kept going back out there and making photographs, and I didn't think anything of it. And I got closer and closer to the Palestinian people, and I realized how similar we all are. As much as we want to divide ourselves because of certain religious beliefs or locations that we reside in, or ways in which we live our lives, we're all similar. We're more similar than dissimilar, and to divide is to promote fear. But the fear that people feel is real. There's something about the authenticity of the teacher and the way in which he described his mindset and his thoughts that were raw and real. During my time in Jerusalem, I remember one of my classmates was stabbed and murdered by a Palestinian terrorist on a train. And, it was this sweet young woman that was there studying abroad like me, and she was killed and lost her life. And there is real violence in the world. There are situations that occur that are tragic, but these are universal, I believe, throughout the entire world. For instance, last week, a 14-year-old boy shot two individuals, I believe, a couple teenagers, with a gun during the Christmas Village, right? And, I think that these experiences of violence, of division, of separation are universal amongst humanity, but maybe ultimately we need to sort of ignore the distractions, kind of just not respond to them and not become outraged, I think, because a lot of what we hear and a lot of the things we see shape our perception of reality. But when you sort of almost ignore it and turn inward in silence and recognize the connectivity between our bodies, the sunlight, the trees, the birds, and the bees, I think that this is where we can find peace, honestly. And look at this. Can I photograph the beehive? Whoa. I keep seeing all these beehives. It's cool. Yeah, maybe I'll come back and photograph this again. I remember being in the village in Zambia as a Peace Corps volunteer, and in the evenings I would look up at the sky. I'm looking up at the moon right now, and I feel like I can almost grab it. Like, it feels so close, It's so close yet so far. And we would gaze up at all of the stars. I would see shooting stars every night. I would see satellites moving in the entire galaxy. It was incredible, the scene that I would see. And me and my host father, Babwalia, we would discuss the differences between our culture, the differences between living in a busy city versus a village in a tribe. And we shared common beliefs, despite our differences. We had similar thoughts. We shared our different cultural experiences. And that's what I remember being the ultimate aim of volunteering with the Peace Corps, was sharing your culture with others and coming together through peace. And maybe we are bound by gravity, you know, maybe we are very far away from the moon ultimately, but we can strive upwards, you know, we can strive to purify our bodies, we can strive to go through the fire. You know, I remember being in Rome and Florence over the past summer, seeing these beautiful sculptures of Hercules and Greek heroes like Achilles, and, you know, contemplating these Greek mythology, the ancient Greek mythology and the stories behind them, and the hero, you know, this sort of myth, you know, the legend of Hercules having his skin inflamed, you know, and burnt away and purified, rising to Mount Olympus. You know, or I think about my time in Zambia and the church in the center of the community, and how everybody comes together at the church to share the common moral guidance and philosophical beliefs of Jesus. You know, and having this teacher, this archetype at the center of the community, sort of guiding people to strive upwards, to strive to purify, to prune the dead. You know, one of my other favorite things to do is when I see dead leaves on the trees, you know, just recently I've been pruning some of the palm trees. I noticed that a lot of little bugs, they'll eat the leaves. And so I was clearing out some of the cobwebs, you know, washing the leaves, giving the soil more water and nutrients to allow them to regrow again. And I think that we're similar to that, where we may have to go through the fire, right? We may have to suffer and feel pain and sorrow and grief and anger and all of these very earthly things that are real, but come out new again, you know, and to grow through the suffering and the pain, you know, I believe is the ultimate aim in life, because that's how you can go upwards. It's through the strife. And maybe that's not such a bad thing after all, right? I cleared out, this was so overgrown this summer, and I cleared all this out. This is so crazy. There were so many of these like spiky vines and things. Now we got this Zen. Oh my God. Is that real? What? Someone put a coin in there and there's a spider. Whoa. That looks fake though. There's all these coins. People have been using this. What? Look at the spider. Like, how do spiders spawn in and they already know how to? Oh my God, that was so scary. And they already know how to like make a perfect web. When they're born, they have this like innate ability to just craft perfect webs. Whoa, this is cool. Someone put a spider in there. Little fake spider. Yeah, some random philosophical musings in the morning. This is how I like to start my day. It's just a way for me to flesh out thoughts out loud and think out loud and just share what's on my mind. I think that yeah, maybe this modern world distracts us, separates us, you know, and the distractions and all of these things are almost like spiritual warfare, and you kind of have to fend off all of the distractions, stay laser focused on simply becoming a better version of you. And that's ultimately, I think, the only thing that we can do in order to make the world a better place. Yeah, maybe you have to destroy yourself to create anew. Embrace the chaos and then put order to it. Time to catch the sunrise. Allow that light to peer in my eyes. So nice. Yeah. Seek to purify. Strive for perfection despite our imperfections. Why not?